What's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of InTheImageClothingCompany. Today is the 8th of December, 2025. This is our main side, okay? There are 4 sides to InTheImageClothingCompany. Here on our main side, we allow the body to work. The human body truly only has one way it could ever work. It's just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, okay? There's neutrals to all the functioning, and a center line to the body, okay? So there's also actually a centered line to Earth's gravity. We place clothing on our bodies. It has to stay centered. It has to fit correct. Where we discuss clothing sits for everyone, and it has to be made in all the ways that we can from 100% natural materials. Things that didn't exist just decades ago before today's date are unnatural materials. The goal is natural on all 4 sides of the Image Clothing Company because that's all there really is, okay? Things by us human beings who were designed in the image of God, okay, in the Image Clothing Company, we design things that are unnatural. We just, excessively heat things up and mix things together and conjure up this, stretchy material a lot of the time. This is the point. This video's title here, one of our many. We do so much under the gift of video and always will, okay? Because it's an eternal, permanent documentation. But the title of this one is The Importance of a Non-Forgiving Waistband, okay? You hear people talking about forgiving waistbands. It's like a joke a lot of the time as well. People will go to a party, like Thanksgiving dinner here in the United States of America, Christmas parties, right, where there's a lot of food. It's Christmas time. It's December 8th, 2025. People joke about it, make sure you wear a forgiving waistband. You're going to a buffet, you're going to eat a lot of food, or whatever it is. That could be a joking way people talk about it, but also just forgiving waistbands, meaning the waistband of our pants, what goes around our waist, can move, okay? So that when our abdomen expands when we eat food, or if you're just fluctuating in weight, whatever it is, or just to have motion in your waistband, what they call a forgiving waistband means just a waistband with motion in it. You can look here at these shorts and see the drawstring is a piece of rope that has no give in it at all. Very strong, sturdy, parachute cord type rope, okay? Now, watch the waistband stretch and that rope move within it, okay? The waistband stretches. This is something that was impossible, really. The ways that it happens nowadays, just decades ago from today's date. There was no such thing as stretch in clothing. And stretch is damaging to the body. The human body only pulls. A video under the main side of the Image Clothing Company here. There's only one way the human body could ever work, like I have said here. All musculatures. Musculatures. It doesn't matter what I have said here. Don't believe me. That's why I got caught up. Don't believe Evan Strong. Don't believe in the Image Clothing Company. We say things that are bold and opposing what a lot of other people say. And if you stretch the human body, since there are neutrals, you're just stretching one side of a function, and there's just another side to it. Okay? The human body does have a center line. Okay, I'll get to what I was saying about pulling and stretch and how they're opposites. Okay? Stretching opposes the only way the human body could ever work. I'll discuss it. There's no claim to any of this. None at all. But it sounds different than what a lot of people say in modern day. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. The things we discuss as being the center line of the human body, is what we discuss under In the Image Clothing Company's main side here. We just discuss the anatomy of the human body in depth, and we allow it to work. That's why we talk about clothing. It's the only thing physically placed on us. It's the only thing that has that high of a potential to just damage our bodies. Our bodies are placed on Earth physically, clothing's placed physically on our bodies, and now we're just stacking things that can damage us. Stacking, truly, right? Layering clothing. Clothing has to just fit us properly. And the big thing with the stretch is Now I'm back to this, okay? The human body only pulls, as I said, a video that we do have here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, but also just the truth. Don't believe me. We can close a joint by pulling two endpoints of where a muscle connects to bones together, contracting, shortening the joint, pulling the two endpoints together. But we have opposing muscles, and so what we think of as a push is actually a pull of two endpoints together, just on the opposite side of the function from where we think of it as being a pull. The human body only pulls in every sense of everything in it. Musculature connects from the outside of the shoulder into the center of the body at the sternum, evenly in the front. From the outside of the shoulder into the spine, in the center, evenly in the rear. There's only one way the human body could ever work, and with a center of gravity on our Earth, our bodies have to have a center line to stand vertical, okay? And then we've got this natural waist here, okay, where our pants actually sit above our hips. Yeah, below the lowest ribs and above the hip bones, that's our natural waist. That's where we bend side to side at the spine. You can't actually bend side to side at the hips without lifting a leg off the ground, because from our hips down to the heel of our foot with our knees locked out, it's essentially just a stick. Our leg, and then we have another one on the other side of the body. But the spine does move side to side. So we wear our pants at our natural waist, above those hip bones, and slightly higher in the front than the rear, because there's a neutral to the pelvis position, okay? Posterior with the rotation, neutral, anterior with the rotation, neutral, okay? There's always a neutral. There's a neutral to everything in the body. A center line is essentially a neutral. A center of gravity is essentially a neutral, okay? But then all the body, it also has rotations, and the fingertips up to the elbow. In these forearms, we have, from the neutral thumbs here, internal rotation, back to neutral, external rotation, and back to neutral. Okay, the entire arms from the thumbs here pointing up, internal rotation, okay, back to neutral, external rotation, and back to neutral. In the lower legs, internal rotation, back to neutral, external rotation, and neutral again, okay? The entire leg, internal rotation, neutral, external rotation, neutral. There's only one way the human body could ever work. Everybody's got it wrong if they're telling you that you can get your body to do anything or train your body to do something. It's physically impossible. No claim anyone could have. This is God's design since the beginning. There's only a neutral. That's how there's two sides to things. In the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is what we do under 1/4 of In the Image Clothing Company. It's titled In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. We have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. Not a claim, but we're all human beings placed on the same earth. We're designed by one God. We all look the same, just about. Sure, different skin colors, different heights, different widths of whatever you want to start to talk about. There's a universal human design, skeletal system-wise, which is what the human body is about, because all the musculature does anyway is operate the skeletal system. If we didn't have a skeletal system, we wouldn't need musculature. We got to get our priorities straight, okay? But you have to know what you have to know, and you don't know what you don't know. You can't be held accountable for what you don't know. But we just discussed the gospel of Jesus Christ in depth. We're on episode 187 as of today's date of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to believe in anything. You don't got to care to care. Things are just what they are. It's like what we say about clothing. You don't have to care about clothing. You don't have to care about fashion at all. But clothing's the only thing physically placed on your physical human body. It's damaging it if it's not intentional. And if you don't know how to be intentional, well, a lot of designs nowadays have to be modified. I do it personally, as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, allowing the body to work. Anyway, opposition is in all things. That's what we discuss within the gospel of Jesus Christ. There's not warm unless there's cold. There's not light unless there's dark. Well, there's not contracting of muscles to close a function unless we can contract the muscles to open the function. The motion would never be there if there wasn't two sides to it. Okay? But this is the big thing with the, there's someone passing, which is fine. I'll just kind of step up here to block them mostly, just so we don't film them, you know, more than we have been given consent to do. No, I'm in a public place, it's fine legally. But what I am saying is the opposition that's in all things, okay? We have musculature contracting on two sides of a function, okay? We have feet, arches, gripping inward on two sides of the body, opposing the center line, and now we can stay vertical on Earth's gravity that has two sides we could lean to. But this is the whole thing with stretch. It didn't exist. It just didn't even exist. The materials we have nowadays, just decades ago. Same with tags and clothing. One of those things didn't even exist. Just decades ago. For me saying it right now. So anyway, the point is, if you stretch your body, well, you can stretch to one side of a function, but now what? You got to get all the way back to the neutral from there, and then there's the other side of the function as well. And so we need to stay in the neutral, then we can just go to either side. If you stretch to one side, you're actually shortening one side excessively and elongating the other side excessively. And then, you know, muscles are only pulling anyway, so stretching them is opposing the only way they could ever work. There's no opinion here, there's no new information here, but we just don't know what we don't know, and we live in this modern man-made world placed onto God's natural earth. So, stretchy waistbands, forgiving waistbands, and the ways that they're made from the materials they are nowadays, it wasn't even a thing in the quite recent past, from me saying it right now, okay? Truly, I mean, this is what I mean, is there's no opinion to this, but we just don't know. You can never have stretch in your clothing and have your body work. The human body only ever works activated as a whole. Everything's there with a role to play. You can't drag around dead weight, and no compensation can be had for anything in the body not working because it's got its own individual role. So it can't make up for something else's individual role if part of the body is just not working. Opposition in all things here. Check this out. A neutral to the pelvis or the hip structure on Earth's gravity. Okay, pants above the hips, slightly higher in the front than the rear. Our pelvis can go rotation-wise forward, anterior. Now we're pulling on our muscles here in the abdominal area, and we're pulling on our hamstrings here on the rear of our upper legs because the muscles in the abdominal area and the hamstrings on the upper legs in the rear, down here, below the pelvis, both shorten together like this to tuck the pelvis underneath us posteriorly, okay? And then we've got the lower back muscles and the quadricep muscles, okay? The quadriceps are the front of our upper legs here, okay? Hamstrings are the rear of the upper legs, quadriceps are the front. On the front of our upper legs, these muscles will contract with the lower back muscles to take our pelvis anterior, like this. Okay, watch this. There's just two sides. The point is, we have to keep our hips even on Earth's gravity. And how's that going to happen if our pant waistlines aren't sitting in the correct location? So the point was saying that really, because let's say your pant waistline just stays at the right angle, but it's still stretching, well, we can just talk about the musculature and what it's doing, but that's really going to be the same thing, and I'll discuss it. But man, I'm going to do this, and I know it's kind of disruptive, I know it's kind of annoying, but this is the truth, and this is what I mean by we don't know what we don't know. Living in this modern man-made world, things are just so different than they have ever been. For any human being generation ever, before just a few decades ago, within the past 100 years, when we started to have stretch in clothing, and we started to have designs of things and materials that just didn't even exist. The core of the human being can never deactivate. And that sounds like some crazy claim, like you have to be some hugely, intentional athlete, be working out all day, every day to try to keep your core active. But you can hear it in people's voice, in their breath control. You can see it in the way people stand. You can see it in people's wrists, in their ability to function and have all the motion they do. You can see it in people's abilities to work with their hands. What I really mean to say, more than just work with your hands, is talk with their hands like this and actually lift their own shoulders. It's nothing to do with your shoulders. It's your core. Your gripped arches in your feet are nothing to do with your feet. It's your core. Meaning, if we don't address the core first, I say it like this. I've said it many times before today's date, under In the Image Clothing Company content. The core of the human being, just meaning the center of the whole body, top to bottom and in and out, okay, from the center out, the core. It's like the core of an apple. You core an apple, or take the core out of the apple, the center part, that's where the seeds are. That's where the apple has, quote, stemmed, unquote, from. The apple stems from where the stem is, which is in the center of the apple, coming from the seeds. You take the seeds and the center part out of the apple, and the apple withers away and dies. The whole rest of the apple is no good if the core isn't good. That's how the human body is. And God designed the human body to work. Designed to Work is an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. If we had never placed anything onto our bodies to alter them, and we had never placed our bodies into unnatural positions like chair heights with weight on our musculature, just deactivating it, and, living in this modern world with positions that we just would never do in nature and in life, our bodies would just work because the animals just work. Except, we do have another fourth of us in the Image Clothing Company, poodles. We specialize in purebred standard poodles. We breed them, registering them properly, showing how to do these things well for the sake of keeping less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes, furthering good bloodlines of dogs, purebred standard poodles for us specifically, but we give information on letting dogs stay natural, which is the same thing as saying allowing the body to work for human beings. And this information applies to all dogs in the ways that it does. It even applies to a lot of animals. A lot of our information on In the Image Clothing Company poodles would apply to just about every animal on the earth. Okay? Feeding. Well, I'll say it like this. It's the same thing we do for human beings. Standing, sitting, walking, eating, breathing, sleeping, hydration. Everything we do, we talk about doing these things natural because that's the goal on all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company, because everything's natural until we make things as human beings. And everything was here before us anyway. There is only nature. There's no opinion, no approach to have. It's just the truth, right? The truth of all things. No claim, but that's Jesus Christ, the creator of heaven and earth, and all of the things that are in them as well. I'm not trying to claim something. It's just an explanation on what life is. The gospel of Jesus Christ, that's what it is. It's, hey, what's going on here? Well, here's your explanation. Then we read scriptures of Jesus Christ. Truly, that's it, okay? So here's the point with the dogs. We talk about interacting with our dogs as owners to not alter our bodies, holding leashes naturally, right? The sizing of dogs versus the size of the owners. And keeping collar centered is one of the big things. For human beings, look at this. All the musculature and tendons going through my top here, it's opposing the center line that has to remain on Earth's center of gravity. And if it's not centered, the collar of my top, around my neck, my body will be damaged. Okay, that musculature is just contracting on each side, opposing the center line to keep me vertical. Okay? So, keeping collars centered for dogs is a huge thing. Leashes, harnesses, and all the things placed onto dogs like this has to be very intentional. So we'll always have good clothing, human being clothing, and dog products that apply to all dogs on InTheImageClothingCompany.com. Okay, and whatever else we branch out into product-wise, those are our main basis things that we do. Okay, anything that clothes the dogs or the human being, we just have to be very intentional about. Okay, so we'll always have good products that are very intentional because we know a lot about what we do here. All right, don't believe me, but this is the point. Is we have a lot of videos where I discuss it, so you couldn't even question if I know what I'm talking about with this stuff. The gift of video. Stretchy waistbands. You can't have them. You can't. There's a butterfly in December in Utah. Utah County as well. You know, we live up Utah, but we're actually based down in St. George, Utah. But it's pretty cold up here in the winters. St. George, Utah is the very southernmost part of Utah. Beautiful desert, red rocks, awesome nature. Come to one of the things we do event-wise, as in the Image Clothing Company, Poodle Parade events. We get people into nature and dogs into nature. Bring your purebred poodles of any size and or poodle mixes of any size, and it'll be awesome. Okay, there's a lot of beautiful things here in Utah. We'll go down to Arizona, Nevada, and wherever we do, when we do, spanning the state of Utah with events and just with a lot that we personally do, as in the Image Clothing Company, and share under the gift of video. Utah is beautiful. I mean, look at this behind me. If you don't think this is beautiful, whatever. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I'm beholding some beauty through my visual system currently. So this is the point with the stretchy waistbands. The core has to stay activated. It's not something you can ever train to. I just said a few minutes ago here, and I've said it, I think, at least a couple or more times in this, that it's impossible to train the human body. And I explained that there's no opinion because there is a neutral, and you can't train to a neutral. That doesn't work. That's just physically impossible to do. Okay? But you can never deactivate your core and have your body work. Your feet arches collapse, your wrists drop, your shoulders change their only normal position, and everything just goes on one end of a neutral if something's deactivated on one side, because there's just opposing sides that have to be evenly activated. So listen to this. I said it like this, you know, it sounds kind of ridiculous, it's pretty disruptive, but this is me just showing my core is active, and it always is, otherwise my body just doesn't work. Listen to this. If I just sit here, stand here, talk, move, do whatever I do, I don't have to try to like really contract my core excessively to like keep my body working. There's people driving by again. They're probably wondering if I'm doing some kind of like nursery rhyme, hit your stomach and pat your head type thing. But I do that because I want to show that it's not a claim, you know. You have to have your core, one second. Constantly activated because we've got opposing muscles. That's what I was showing. The muscles here in the abdomen work with the hamstrings on the rear of the upper legs and pull the pelvis posterior, and that's opposing in a good way to get to the neutral. The muscles on the low back and the quadriceps on the front of the upper legs contracting to put the pelvis anterior. In between those two, when both of those sides of a function are contracting opposing each other, that's where we get neutral. Like my wrist here, one side's contracting against or opposing the other side, and that's how I'm neutral and stable, okay, is in between those two sides. That's how the core works, because there's a vertical pull that Earth's gravity has on everything that's on the surface of it. You can never have a deactivated core. If you never wore clothing and you just lived life in nature, and that's, again, it's not some kind of like approach. Like if you wanted to decide to be a natural human being, well, you always only ever can be. You're only what you eat. You know, one of the things we talk about is eating naturally. You eat anything unnatural, your body can't extract any nutrients from it, but it has to pass that thing through your whole body, and that actually takes energy to do, and your body's not receiving any energy from doing it. There's only natural. That's what I mean. We just don't know what we don't know. We live in a modern world that just blinds us from the only truth that exists, the truth of all things, if you will. If you won't, it still applies to you as well. That's what I mean. You don't have to believe in anything. Truth is truth. No human being could decide it. And the truth is, the core is just the center of the entire body. And the truth also is, don't believe me, we have stretch in clothing. One of those things we never can have. It just opposes the only way muscles function. Muscles only contract, okay? Stretch elongates, if you will, and then it contracts back in, but it's just unnatural. You know, the fibers of the muscles, there's just a lot of little muscle fibers in a muscle, and it's like electricity, truly, right? The brain is just an electrical system. It sends electrical signals to the muscle fibers, the musculature's fibers, and they contract, okay? They fire, if you will. And if you won't, that's still what they're doing. That's what I mean. You don't have to believe in anything. Truth is truth. And the truth is, you put something stretchy around your abdomen, and what are we doing always? Otherwise we die. Breathing. Okay, breath is the essence of human life. And that's really the big point, is that's the first thing. What I said earlier, we have to get our priorities straight. That's what I mean. Breath is the first thing. And where are you breathing from? Well, not just your lungs. Just like you're not just gripping arches from your feet, you're gripping arches from your core down to your feet. And from your feet up to your core. Now your core is being able to work because your feet are active. The human body can only ever work activated as a whole. That's why everything is actually there. Things wouldn't be there if they didn't need to be. There's only one way the human body could ever work. And so the big thing is with breathing is we're actually pulling muscles together to open our rib cage. Opposition in all things. The human body only pulls. Diaphragms in our neck and in our abdomen down here. It's muscles contracting to open a void space inside of our lungs, and then we just have a change of pressure in the gases of the atmosphere of our earth from outside of our body to inside of our body. We breathe in oxygen, and then we actually exchange it with something entirely different. We turn it into carbon dioxide and breathe it back out. Then the plants breathe in, essentially, the carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen, and then we just do this cycle because there's opposition in all things. The gospel of Jesus Christ, did I mention it's the truth of all things? Don't believe me. But truth is truth. So here's the point. Breathing is actually muscles contracting to open the lungs. That's the truth. And so that's the thing, is you've got stretch pulling and going away from contracting. When the abdomen has diaphragms in it with stretch placed around it, and all those diaphragms can do is contract to breathe. So it's not about just having a strong six-pack looking abdominal area musculature visually, right? And it's not about trying to do a lot of sit-ups or crunches or being an athlete. It's about breathing. You can't breathe if your core isn't active. It's not going to happen. That's what's causing breath, is your core being active. It's those muscles contracting that open the lungs, meaning, again, just expanding a void space inside the body to just have air rush into the lungs. We're not actually sucking air in. We're just opening a void space, and air goes in our bodies. Oxygen does. That's really how it works. That's what I mean, is you just don't know what you don't know, and that's fine. But regardless, the importance of a non-forgiving waistband. That's what I'm saying, right? That's this video's title. Well, we're just going to have a misalignment, if you will, an imbalance in contraction or workings of all those muscles in the core area if we've just got stretch going on in the core area. Because imagine, as you're breathing, you've just got motion happening, right? The lungs are expanding and contracting in 360 degrees, just meaning all the way around. And so while this is happening, all the musculature just needs to be evenly opposing its opposing muscles with its level of contraction. And if we've got something stretchy, placed on an area of the body that's just moving through everything just as simple as breathing even, but then everything else we could ever do movement-wise in our life, then what we'll have is a different feel against those muscles in different areas of the abdomen, different areas of the core, because there's stretch going on. I mean, the bottom line is, regardless of which muscles it is or isn't, and in what time, and on an inhale or an exhale, if we're bending forward or if we're extending open, whatever end of anything, bending left or bending right, where muscles are being affected by stretch around the waistband, and maybe how could we remedy that while still having stretch around our waistband. The point is, all muscles only contract, period. Okay? That's the point. But then, since we have opposing muscles, we're just going to have an imbalance in what's happening front to back, especially, and meaning posterior or anterior with the rotation of the pelvis on Earth's gravity that does have a center to it that we're standing on. Otherwise, we're not standing. And that's why so many people sit nowadays. One of the reasons, stretchy waistbands, forgiving waistbands. There's only one way the human body could ever work. Don't believe me. It's not my opinion. Truth is truth. I didn't decide any of this. But we can know God. And I know God. The importance of a non-forgiving waistband. And not just one of them, but if you have multiple pants, that's why we titled it like we did. The importance of non-forgiving waistbands. Look at this. When I'm breathing, okay, my whole body, I'm actually whistling while I suck in and then whistling while I blow out, okay? So anyway, the whole body's expanding and contracting as we breathe. I think he's gonna walk back this way as well. That's fine, but shout out to him for just being cool about walking by while I was filming. Anyway, when the whole body's moving, well, this stretch is happening. So we're breathing in and we're going, and as we're trying to expand our ribs, this pant waistline with stretch is trying to pull in. You're trying to breathe and get a full breath, okay? And your pants want to do this. Pull back to the center. Your pants are squeezing you. They're suffocating you. Stretch can only happen if there's an opposing side. The only way we can have stretchy clothing is because it contracts after it stretches. There's opposition in all things. The gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth of all things. Don't believe me. But I will say this, what I am saying in this video, and I will discuss it quite thoroughly so that you couldn't possibly have an opinion, because I don't on this. Okay, I couldn't. Yeah, the only way clothing can stretch is because it's wanting to come in and we're just pulling it the opposite way of where it wants to go. And what does that sound like? Well, to me it sounds a lot like, and exactly the same as, the musculature of the body that only contracts. And so you're pulling and you're stretching on your musculature when it just wants to shorten. That's the only thing it can do, right? But stretching clothing, it's going to really, really, really alter the only way that your muscles can work, because we're constantly fighting and battling that contraction that's happening, even in just something as simple as breathing. So we start at breathing, and then we get to just moving around and bending our bodies and doing anything we do in life with something like this just placed around our waist, contracting in on us, right? And what that's doing is what my legs are doing here, okay? It pulls in on our musculature and deactivates it. You know, people have such tight quadricep muscles and hip flexors, okay? And people have such tight lower back pain. Well, such tight lower back muscles that lead to pain. Well, your muscles are just trying to stabilize against something like this. It's not stable. I mean, it's not stable at all. It's springy and stretchy. You try to stand on a spring. Try to stand on a trampoline. Yeah, I mean, I used to do a lot of parkour, like flips outdoors, and on trampolines. I do a lot of flips. But just standing on a trampoline is a lot more work for your body to do than standing just on the, quote, firm ground, unquote. That's an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Firm ground. The earth is very firm. Listen to this. If you could hear me over the noise of the vehicle, right? It is what it is. Blunt, bold, raw, and real. In the Image Clothing Company. If you ever come to an event, who do you want to come to see? The people who were behind the camera that you even know the event is happening because of? And, you know, probably. And so let's try to be authentic, right? In all the ways that we can. That's really a big reason for Poodle Parade events, is getting people rooted and grounded. You know, nature does that for people and dogs do that for people. And that's just a big reason for the poodles at all. As 1/4 of In the Image Clothing Company, they help us a lot in our lives. Therapy dogs, support dogs emotionally, physically, you know. Yeah, service dogs, you know, a lot of roles that dogs play is a lot of reasons why we do what we do under In the Image Clothing Company poodles. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I mean, you hear me like hitting my body like this while I'm making videos. I'm like discussing rotations. I'm like, okay, down here in the leg, you know, or I talk about the core and I'll do it again, right? I'm hitting my core like this and I'm activated, and it's not hard for me to keep speaking while I hit my abdomen. And the point with that, hold on for the noise if you would. That's a big point. I'm going to talk about this a little bit deeper than I did earlier. Because that is a big point, actually. To hit a little bit deeper, because the focus is the waistband placed directly around our waist, more than just stretchy clothing in any part of the body that we talk about often. The importance of non-forgiving waistbands. The abdomen. It's hard to breathe if you can't contract your core. Breathing is just contracting your core. That's what we went over here. You contract muscles that are pulling down. Muscles only pull. An endpoint up here to an endpoint down here. The muscles pull down, opening a space up here. Okay? Now we've got a bigger opening in the lungs than we did before these muscles of the core contracted. Now we can breathe in and get a big, expansive breath. Well, only if our tops are sitting in the correct location. Tops have seams on top of our shoulders that sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders. Button-ups have a band of material that just sits behind the shoulders, but single seams, they just sit behind the shoulders. Our shoulders only ever work behind our head. Watch this. I mean, you can just see where the musculature is connecting from the top and rear of the shoulder to the spine of the neck, which is on the very rear, and then the base of the rear of the skull. Those upper trapezius muscles that support the shoulders vertically from the top of them, they connect to the very base of the rear of the skull. Muscles only contract. The shoulders only ever work behind the head. So, to expand the rib cage, it's not just about our core, it's about our shoulders. But we can't focus on our shoulders if we can't focus on our core. There's only one way the human body could ever work. I mean, you can't lift the upper part of your body if the lower part of your body is not working. And really, you can't even use the lower part of your body if the upper part of your body is not working. I mean, if your shoulders aren't supporting themselves, then you'll never grip arches in the feet. The body does work from top to bottom as well as bottom to top. Even though Earth's gravity is bottom to top, all the body's there. Everywhere you go, all of you comes. But you can never train it. But that's the point with the, I probably won't pick that up again throughout this video. I didn't really mean to throw it in the dirt. But I just, was showing it's stretchy, it's springy, it's strange, it's weird. If you try to stand on anything squishy, even just in nature, trying to stand in a muddy puddle with squishy, like sandy mud, it's a lot of work for your body because the sandy mud is moving away, just like clothing stretches away if it has stretch in it. And it only does as of, the past little while, decades ago from today's date. Is how I word this as of this time period because that's the truth. When we deal with a lot of problems now that we never could have possibly had to deal with in the past because of things like this. Forgiving waistbands, stretch in clothing, unnatural materials that are unnatural, they're not even real, they're labeled as artificial or synthetic, which are synonyms with fake, and they're not even real. It's not some kind of opinion, it's in the wording, it's literal, it's fake. It's oil, by the way, polyester, acrylic. Things our clothing is made out of nowadays, it's oil. Poly is just plastic. Polyurethane, polyester, these are blends of plastics. And they weave it into little strands and put it onto our bodies as clothing. Well, they weave it into little strands and make clothing out of it, and then if we choose to put it onto our bodies to clothe our bodies with, then it's clothing. But it's plastic. And it's stretchy. It's opposing the only way the human body could ever possibly function. Contracting. Okay? All the musculature, it contracts. Okay? Stretch goes the opposite direction. So don't stretch your body, but you're going to feel like you want to stretch your body if you're in clothing with stretch. And you got to keep your core active. Otherwise, you just got an imbalance of the musculature that's opposing the functionality of the pelvis, like I'm showing. And I show that often. I've done that many times, and it's so cool to show because that's just how it works. It's kind of like an X, crossing through the hips. The quadriceps up to the low back, the abdominals and the core in the front here, down to the hamstrings in the rear. We've got more muscles playing into all this than just the ones I'm saying. But yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. There's a lot of musculature in the body, but no matter what, the point is, it's just not going to work if it's not allowed to work. You'll never train your body. Go to the gym all you want. Do all the crunches you want and sit-ups you want and hang from a bar and lift your knees and do whatever you think you want to try to be doing. I'm not mocking you if you don't know. But I'm mocking workouts. I don't do a single workout ever anymore. I used to. But, you can get stronger in your body's only working positions, but if you're already outside of your only neutrals and you've got part of your body deactivated, you're just deeply ingraining patterning into your body. That's really what we do here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, is get out of chronic patterning and scar tissue that gets built up in the body. Through anything and everything we do in life, just our worldly existence we have. But really, oversized clothing, pulling on the body to one end of its neutral, and there's another end to its neutral. There's only one way the human body could ever work. Imbalances in clothing, okay? A lot of things, free modifications we give in clothing. In The Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, right? Keeping collar centered. Rotated seams in clothing, zippers, buttons. Okay, and then this is the big one, right? Ropes introduced to the body, shoelaces and drawstrings and anything like this. A ribbon around a dress, an apron knot, something around your hood collar. Yikes. Whatever it is the point. If we're rotating the body, you're rotating the body. And so that's the problem, really. As we get into chronic patterning and scar tissue gets built up in the body because we're in twists. We're in a right-handed world. 85%, give or take, of the population of human beings across the earth are right-handed. We live in a right-handed world. But there's two sides to the body. So we talk about things like eating and drinking with the left hand, or non-dominant. Just keeping our bodies centered in all the ways. We have to. There's a center to gravity. There's a physical center to the body. Two sides opposing okay? And that happens in all ways. And so the stretch in the waistband, you're just not going to be able to breathe. Then if you can't get a full breath, you're just not fully expanding your rib cage. So then your shoulders aren't sitting in their normal location. Okay? And if your shoulders aren't in their normal location, it travels down. The jaw stabilizing the entire body is huge. We put so much focus on the jaw. But from a forgiving waistband, you're going to have an anterior pelvis. Always. I mean, you're always going to have your pelvis just falling down in the front. Always. You could not. You know why? If no other reason, and we could really discuss all the reasons that I could discuss here as to why. But if no other reason, breathing. It's so dramatic. But that's because it's real. It's that big. Breath is the first thing. And you can hear me in 187 episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast as of today's date. 335, give or take, episodes of... They're not episodes. That's not what we title them, at least. But videos on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company here. We've got two other sides of In the Image Clothing Company. What I'm saying this for right now is that there's a lot of documented footage, the gift of video, of Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, in this for life, right? But the founder, sure, yes. Speaking. You can hear me speak. You can hear my breath control. You can hear how I can just project my voice. And sometimes I'm a little bit eccentric, a little bit loud. I understand. But this can't happen if you can't breathe proper, okay? And where are you breathing from? Your abdomen. You're breathing from here where you shouldn't have to have a hard time trying to keep it contracted because there's only one way the human body could ever work. No opinion of mine. Nothing to train to because it's impossible to train to get it to work. It's all working or something's not. And it's all there. Even with an amputation. We talk about this. Deformity, birth defect, major surgery, anything that's altered your body, sure. Still a universal human design we have to get as close as we can to. You still learn the anatomy of the human body and you go across the entire earth and every human you interact with has the same internal workings, even if they're structured very slightly different in very specific cases. It's a universal human design. And why? Because we're designed in the image of God. That's where our company comes from. We're not about fashion. It's okay to dress nice. But we're about the mechanics of the body because we need to allow the body to work to live our lives. And stretch within clothing does not allow the body to work. A forgiving waistband does not allow the body to work. It doesn't. It couldn't. It's impossible. It's opposing the only way all the musculature works. And all musculature works to do is pull the bones of the body that all only connect the way they do. There's a thin layer of cartilage between them, which is just cushioning to not wear the joints out. And then we've got just ligaments connecting bones to bones. And then we've got, the musculature just pulling the bones to another bone, connecting through tendons, tracking only in line. There is only one way the hands work. There is only one way the feet work. A couple of videos I filmed down in St. George, Utah, about 3 weeks ago, right? Where we're based, I just have to move down there. Then we'll set up base camp for life. We'll have our building, we'll have the poodles, we'll have In the Image Clothing Company's team, we'll do our events, we'll do a lot of fun stuff. Okay, our building will not be a place for you to come in and purchase clothing from, but we'll do a lot through video there. We'll house the poodles there, the breeding and the... information can come from that building in the ways that it can. You'll see when you see, but for now, I'm standing out here in this field discussing some foundational truths that In the Image Clothing Company is based on. And we can never have a forgiving waistband and have our bodies work. So I'm going to just stand here and pout about it because my life changed when I learned all this. And the only way is to allow for the human body, and then we say let for the dogs, just so we phrase it different to show that it is two different things that we do encapsulated in all that we are. as all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. Allowing the body to work and letting dogs stay natural. The only way we can do these things on the back end is because they're not our designs. They're God's design. You didn't create your own body. You don't get to decide how it works. And I'm not trying to say that people are always trying to decide how their bodies work. If you don't know, that's one thing, and that's fine. But there still is only one way you could ever do anything. So look, we're breathing. We're breathing. We're breathing. We're always breathing or you're dead. You're breathing. Let's say we're breathing, because you are. If you're hearing this, you're alive. You're breathing, okay? In some form or another. When you breathe, you're expanding. Okay? When you breathe in. And as we breathe in, well, the only reason we breathe out is because we first breathe in. We have to breathe in. That's the focus. We only breathe out to just get a fresh breath in again. Okay? We only breathe in, really. But we just have to get a fresh start. Okay? We breathe everything out that we've used, and then we breathe more in again. It's a cycle. Okay? As we breathe in, expansion happens. And we're fighting stretch if it's placed on us. All right? Shoot. It's as real as it gets. It's as real as it gets. It's as obvious as it is once you see it. You can't be fighting stretch if you're trying to breathe in and expand. Live an expansive life through the gospel of Jesus Christ, truly. Okay? So as we breathe in, we expand. Not only our ribs up here that are encapsulating our lungs, the ribs move. They are some bones in the body that actually move. They're bending. That's how you can see. I mean, you can see right here, right now. Watch. I'll breathe all the way out and I'll just breathe in. Watch my rib cage actually expand, and the ribs are actually moving. They're bones, but they do bend. Watch. Okay. The ribs move. But not only the ribs, the diaphragms are down here below the ribs. And the abdomen expands. I mean, the whole body just, in the ways that it does, it just moves. It's a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space. Mechanical means motion operations. Okay? The M, mechanical, is motion. It's a machine that moves, okay? So if you want your body to work, you have to allow it to move. The stretch is trying to pull you in and squeeze you, contract you, constrict you. You know those snakes? Talk about the truth of all things. What do words actually mean? Jesus Christ, God himself, another name for him is the Word. What do words really mean? Because truth is truth, and the truth is there's contraction if there's stretch. The only way something can stretch is if there's opposition to it. You saw me earlier, that's how the pants got over there. I'm spitting. You stretch them, and once you let go, they want to contract. Stretch in clothing, that's how it happens. That's how it's there. Because there's opposition in all things. There's just truth to life. I don't get to decide a single thing that's true. No human being could. But God did, and God is. Jesus Christ is the creator of our bodies. We're designed in his image. Here's the point of what I'm saying. We're trying to expand and breathe. Because the only reason we contract and exhale to breathe out is, again, right, like I said, to breathe in again. It's always about breathing in. That's the only reason we do both of them is for the one that needs to happen. The only reason muscles relax is so that another side of the function can contract. Okay? It's really only about one end. We breathe out just so we can breathe in. We relax muscles just so that we can contract muscles. There's only one end of things, but one end wouldn't exist without the other. So the stretch that happens only can be there because it's wanting to squeeze you and contract. The point with the literal wording is contraction, like constriction. A boa constrictor or any kind of constricting snake is a snake that wraps itself around its prey and squeezes it, constricts it, or contracts, like the stretch in our clothing is trying to do. Contract. And this is how these snakes kill their prey, is they just squeeze them or contract them so tightly that they can't breathe in. Because in order to do so, you have to expand. Okay? Talk about the truth of all things. How many times have I said it? In the Image Clothing Company is, always has been, and always will be huge because it's nothing to do with us. This is God's design. We're just discussing how it works. We can never decide, and it could never change. The gift of video. This is documented. This is an eternal video. This is valid to every human being to ever live. And no one ever would have had to hear this in the past. It still would have applied to them, but there was no such thing as stretch in clothing. Until there was. But there was always human beings, since Adam at least, and really since God. We're designed in the image of God. He had to look like us before we were ever here for him to design us to look like him in his image. This is not my information. I'm not yelling because I'm opinionated. I just kind of yell. I'm just loud. And also, I'm outside. It's kind of a separate thing. I yell inside, too. Check out In the Image Clothing Company podcast. What I'm saying, though, truly, is we're constricting our bodies. Even though it's labeled as stretch, the only way it can is because it's wanting to contract. The importance of non-forgiving waistbands. There's only one way the human body could ever work. So, when we breathe in, we're expanding. But we're expanding at the top end of our pelvis. And so when you expand, and something is stretching, it's going to just move on you the way your body's shaped. Really, I mean, just because there's something just placed around the shape of our bodies. And the pelvis, well, it's only shaped the way that it is. It's physical bone, and it's got motion to it. And we have crests to the pelvis on the sides here. And the pelvis kind of comes like from the very sides, we'll say. Okay? Because let's say the pants are sitting around us, right? And they're sitting on our hips. I mean, you don't want to be restricting your hips, but, if they're above the hips, if they were to just sit on the hips, well, the pelvis kind of comes like this in the front. The actual bones, they curve down and in. We've got these crests to the pelvis that move independently left and right, that go down to our feet and then determine internal and external rotation from the hips down. Where open hips really come from is a video, if that's exactly how it's titled. It's something just like that, if not, under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company. And I talked about our open hips, and most all of what I said in there was the feet. The feet is really what allow that neutral outward curvature of the lower leg and up the knee to track the knee in line, and up the upper leg into the hip socket to have a neutral pelvis position on Earth's gravity. The center line of our bodies, though, the center of our bodies, top to bottom, in and out, is the pelvis, where our waistlines are placed. Above the pelvis, essentially, really kind of, yes. When I say essentially, yes. Above the hips, so we're not restricting them by having something on them. Yeah, you've already got your pants on your hips, let's say, and I did. Till I was about 24. I was just wearing my pants wherever my pants were worn. Different designs fit so differently all the time in modern day. So I didn't know. I don't know if I really ever, through most all my life, up until around 24 years old, even had my pants above my hips. It's called the natural waist for a reason. I didn't label it that. It's just where we naturally move above the hips, So, but now, if we've got stretch, or which only comes from the opposite end of it being there as well, contraction, and it's just placed around our hips. Since our hips are just structured in a certain way, just the bones, and then we've got the musculature that's just structured in a certain way, like the glutes, it's just, going to cause the waistband to just fall in the front. If it's stretchy and moving and contracting and our bodies are trying to move, well, the lower back, comes forward, and then the hips kind of fall forward in the front. When I say fall, what'll happen if the lower back bends forward, but the hips are just shaped to where they kind of like waterfall, if you will, down in the front. Just the shape of the actual bones, and you can see my hip here through my shirt. It's actually just like coming down like this. There's just, yeah, it's just shape of bones that we're just placing something man-made around that we call a waistline of our pants. So, yeah. I mean, it's the shape of the pelvis. It's the shape and insertion points of things like the glute muscles. It's the way the spine bends at the lumbar spine. It's the fact that muscles only contract, or the human body only pulls, same thing, just worded differently. It's the fact that there's a center, front to back, left to right, to the body, and a center line, front to back, left to right, to Earth's gravity. It's the fact that there's opposing muscles to every function, and the pelvis is one of those. And it's all of these things, plus the fact that we've often got ropes around the waist when we do, belt buckles in the front where we do, things in the pockets, which should never happen. And then stretch is just within all of this, trying to find its role to play when it doesn't have one. There's no stretch in nature. And I want to sit on that for a second, because I understand there could be things that are stretchy somewhere in some ways in nature, sure. But we're not going to have those things placed around our waist, affecting our entire bodies. Unless we have these man-made materials that are only a few decades old as of today's date. There's only one way. There's only one way the human body could ever work. It's hard to stand, because to stand you have to have a neutral pelvis. But you've got just a shape to your pelvis that's different from the front to the rear, right? The spine curves only one way at the lumbar. The spine doesn't curve forward at the lower back. I mean, it doesn't. Because we're on Earth's gravity. Like I say, there's this snake. The ankles the ankles bend backward, the knees bend forward, the hips bend backward, lower spine bends forward, the mid spine or the thoracic bends backward, the cervical spine bends forward. We just snake front to back with the activation and with the curvatures of things, with the bends of the body, with the functionality of the hinges of the human flesh. There's only one way the human body could ever work. And placed on Earth, where our pants are placed on our bodies, if there's stretch, it's just going to cause the body to be in a position where the pelvis is anterior. But sitting in a modern man-made chair height, which is unnatural, you just got weight on your musculature of the rear of your upper leg, those hamstrings. And also your feet just aren't underneath you where they can grip arches when you're sitting in a chair height position. Anything we could call a chair. You just wouldn't do that in nature. You'd sit on the ground or something very low, because that's the only way your body works. I can tell you that, and that is the truth. It's not an opinion. It's not, if you want to be an athlete, it's mechanics. It's Earth's gravity. It's universal. It doesn't exclude anyone, even amputated in any kind of sense of whatever. We just have to deal with Earth's gravity. Keeping our bodies over Earth's gravity is a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here. Anyway, when you're sitting in a chair height though, to get there, that's what I'm saying, is your pelvis has to go anterior, because your foot's clear out there. And to get your foot behind you, your hamstring and your core, well, your hamstrings and your abdominal muscles here contract to get your foot behind you, okay? And tuck your pelvis posterior. So your pelvis is just anterior when your feet are in front like that. Anyway, in the height of a chair, because you're at like a 90-degree bend, give or take, in the knees. And that just has to come from somewhere. It's just mechanics. Where's that motion coming from? Well, it's coming from, especially with the lack of the feet gripping arches, a compensation in the pelvis, deactivation of muscles, and especially because you've already just got weight on your muscle. When we sit on the ground, we sit on our ischiums or our sit bones, the bones of the bottom of our pelvis. There's only one way the pelvis is shaped. The hamstrings are just connecting up into the pelvis. And if you're just sitting with weight on the flesh, the muscle of the hamstring, rather than the bone of the bottom of the pelvis, the sit bone, that's why they call it that. That's where you sit. If you're sitting the only way the human being actually does, because the human body only actually does ever work activated as a whole. No opinion. So I love the gift of video so much. I love the gifts that God has given me too, being able to speak so well, deliver information, and just the intelligence that I have. I mean, I am really smart, and that really helps with what I do here, because there's a lot to this. I just mean it, because yeah, you just wouldn't know any of this if you didn't know. That's what I mean. I didn't know until just a couple of years ago, you know. But that's why it's hard to stand, because you can sit and be outside of your neutral pelvis position. Look at, yeah, that's a good position to show that in. With my hands on my hips here, internally rotated at the forearms. My elbows are still at my natural waist, as we say, right? Keeping elbows at the natural waist. My shoulders are still at their neutral height. My wrists are still neutral. My whole body's still neutral. But if you were to sit down, you're not in this neutral pelvis position. Sitting in a chair, your pelvis just goes anterior. Okay? And that's what I'm saying is with a stretchy waistband around your waist, literal wording, sometimes it's obvious, but still, I mean, it's awesome. Truth is truth. When you breathe and expand, your pelvis is just going to go anterior. If there's motion in the pants that your body's trying to accommodate for, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, your muscles are like, what do I compensate with? Where's going to be the best place to have compensation come from that's not going to damage my body as much as compensating from another place? I mean, that's really how it has to happen when you're trying to just stabilize against something that's unstable. The stretch. When you're trying to just stand on squishy, soft, muddy, sandy stuff, or actual springs, or a trampoline type thing, or like a balloon type thing, a squishy mat, squishy shoe soles even. Firm ground, remember that, okay? Remember the earth if you haven't seen it in a while. It's firm, okay? Remember my voice and my harshness? It's firm, I get it, you know, but yeah. There you go. This might run out of battery pretty soon. This device is telling me 10% battery remaining, and it said 20% just a few minutes ago here. But anyway, yeah. There you go. No forgiving waistbands. So I put a solid rope in that waistband, and it's a lot better. Okay, because then you hit an end point, and then your body just works, being able to predict what's happening placed onto it. Like right now, I've got just a solid rope around my waist, and my muscles can predict what's going to happen so they can stabilize against it without trying to stabilize, and then the forgiveness of the waistband happens and you just like fall into nothingness. You just feel so ungrounded and unpresent, and you're just like, you're spaced out because you're literally spacing out. I mean, your abdomen just keeps going. Your muscles just relax and fall because they can't contract when they're trying to just figure out where the end of the motion of this continually stretching, forgiving waistband is. There's only one way the human body could ever work. So there you go. We have another fourth of us in the Image Clothing Company music, and a lot of what we do is show the sizing and setup of guitars to not alter the body. I love it. I'm all over the place in this. This is the way you do these kind of things, to just make them real. Authenticity is the goal. But you can't try to be authentic, or you're trying to be something that's not you. Okay. Sizing and setup of guitar gets shown, you know, to not alter the body. We just talk about fingernails, toenails, fully to the tips of the fingers and toes, supporting them. Cut relatively flat. Okay. So we don't alter that neutral wrist, just in daily life in general. But yeah, playing guitar, we don't want to alter our bodies while we're trying to play guitar. There you go. Rhythm and poetry, spoken word, singing, guitar playing, freestyling with lyricism. A lot of cool stuff like this gets had on In the Image Clothing Company music, geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ, as we are under all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company with the messages, okay? So stick around, hang out, do whatever you want to do, stop back in, stick around for the poodles, check out events, come if you'd like. Yeah. Involve yourself. An episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Shout out to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. If you got a problem with us, stick around. Deeper context brings deeper understandings. We give deep context, as you can tell in just this one video alone. If this is maybe the first thing you've seen from In the Image Clothing Company. Okay, forgiving waistbands. But then let's say you got a tag in the rear of your pants. It's just going to cause the rear of your waistband to be higher anyway. Or you've got like something stitched into the rear of your pants, like if there is a drawstring in there and it's just stuck in the rear, well, it's just going to cause the rear of your pelvis to go higher anyway. You know, certain things like this. But let me talk about where clothing sits. If it cuts me off, it cuts me off. I talked about pants. I talked about tops. The top seam sitting behind the peak of the shoulders because our shoulders follow shoulder seams. But the edge seams of our tops should be just as close as we can get to the edge of our shoulders. It's a joint of the shoulder as well as a joint of material, okay? There we go. So, yeah, two things we have as prerequisites. Firstly, In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. It's just the only way the feet are shaped. We're just weaving ropes across the top of the mechanics of tendons, muscles, ligaments and bones, gripping arches inward, keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity. Straight forward from that pinky toe is neutral, just like the wrist, okay? In the height of a gripped arch, okay? The height of a gripped arch. A video under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. We talk about a lot of things, the importance of zero drop shoes, the term, keeping feet flat on the ground, and then our bodies can actually work, okay? They'd always only be flat on the ground without these modern man-made shoe designs that don't work for the only way the feet do. There's only one way the human body could ever work, dude. And a big point with the second prerequisite is, we should probably say it if we have time to here, removing all tags from clothing. Just like stretch, as I said earlier, they're just new. They're either causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or just not allowing musculature to activate. And then compensation is trying to happen, which is physically impossible mechanically for the body to do compensation for itself, okay? Removing all tags from clothing, anywhere they're placed inside of clothing. We made it through the discussion. There you go, the importance of a non-forgiving waistband. So, just solid. If you get 100% natural materials, you're not going to have stretch. You won't have a forgiving waistband. That's what we say anyway. In all the ways we can, we have to have 100% natural materials. Be what we place onto our natural human body. I mean, it makes sense. It's as obvious as it is once you see it. You don't know what you don't know. Neither do I. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, and I'm glad. There's a lot of stuff out there that's just better to not know. But there's certain things you have to know. Okay? So, that's the point. That's the point. So shout out to Utah. We do live up Utah, and it's awesome. It's so awesome here. core, no claim. It should always be activated, and you cannot train it to. You can't train to a neutral. And there is a neutral. It'll be there if we don't alter it. Allowing the body to work, okay? Thank you. Like I said, today's the 8th of December, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder, but just the leader for life, for my lifetime, of In The Image Clothing Company. Thank you.